Relax.
There you go. Right.
Yeah, we just like to keep it loose. We do have
Cool.
questions, and we got questions we got to get into, but we don't like to be all tight and robotic-y and
Speaks for yourself.
question, you answer, question, you answer, question, you answer. We don't like that style. It's like, just keep it loose, have some jokes in here in between, but also get the information out everybody wants and needs.
Yeah, cool.
So
cool.
Nice.
Sounds good with me.
So,
Are we live to is this live to tape or live to audience?
Live to tape.
Live to tape. Yeah,
Awesome.
we used to do live to audience, but it was like, man, it's hard to get them people to go to the
It's a
actual
lot in sync.
podcast after they don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't like, why go there? I just
Dude, you are doing the robot
glitching
right now. Are you 1 second, Vinny? Are you plugged in? Are you hardwired?
I'm
I'm hardwiring. Me.
My internet?
You talking about me?
Oh, talking about this guy here because he looks like a
Tomo Arigato, Mr.
Yeah.
Am I still glitching, bro? Am I still
You're probably
glitching?
Gonna do it the whole time. That's okay. StreamYard will take care of it. We're fine. We're good to go.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
It's cool. That's why I like. All right, we're ready. So let's get into it, Vinny, man. We were just looking at your profile and we was like, special guest,
very special.
Oh, sweet.
Yes, listen, man. We were just going over your profile and reading and shit. I'm like, dude, you had your hands in so many pots. I'm like, we have to get this guy. But saying that, yeah, I'm like saying that, how did you start? Like, how did you get into the business to begin? And like, tell like how you got to be who you are today.
Funny, right? It's like, why you? By the way, I didn't think about that question until I was 40. Imposter syndrome is in my 20s. I'm cocky. I'm arrogant. You know, the world is so small. I'm limited by the beliefs that I think I know. So I was invincible, to be honest. I have a lot of fortitude. I didn't like being compared to other people, so I tried to do different things. Like I went out of my way to make sure that and maybe this is bad to say, but like part of my defense mechanism, my coping mechanisms as like a teenager were like, don't do anything that everyone else is doing, because then they're faster than you, they jump higher than you, they make more than you. Just do something that's so radically different that people can't compare themselves to you. It's literally my MO. And be surrounded by talent. Yeah. Like in my late teens, this has become like what's gonna get me through. What's going to get me out of my bubble? I don't know. I don't know why I believe. I lived close to Manhattan. I'm from Staten Island.
Okay.
Broadway wasn't fancy or extravagant the way it is now. It's not safe the way that it is now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Is anywhere safe?
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, right. Like, is anywhere safe? But yeah, exactly. I'm thinking back when MTV, when New York looked like the Batman version of New York before Disney and TRL got there, right?
Man,
I don't know what it was, but
you're talking 80s.
Yeah, 80s, early 90s.
To think like that though, at that young, I don't think I was thinking of anything but, women and how to get more women, or how to, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't that mature at that age, you know what I mean? To have that thought process locked down.
Oh, I'm not saying that I wasn't thinking about guys and women, everyone at that point, by the way, as I figure out my own journey then. But you know what I was obsessed with? I was obsessed. Like I went to college from 95 to 99. Those were big years in tech. Like, I mean, I saw the hard disk come and go, VHS to get beta to VHS to micro VHS. I was prepared. I was the dude on my campus that like scanned all his friends' photos into the scanner so they can have like, I don't know, GeoCities pictures, or like we didn't have Friendster, like I was that guy. Even when I got to MTV for the 10 years I was there, it's the access, I really think is the access I had to that computer center that helped me tremendously. Fixing everyone's papers why I use different fonts on different shows and show Bibles or show pitches, and all these different reports turned into casting one sheets. It's so weird to say. I was in that computer center for so long that I got good at databases, and I took out an ad on Backstage, which is like a place where you go to find a non-union talent. And I said, like, I'm I'm looking to build my casting file. Send me your headshots and resume. I had like 700 submissions sent to school. So I was like in the computer center, plugging away, figuring out how to,
You just had one of those minds. You had one of those minds, man. I'm telling you.
Oh, I appreciate. You know what?
Yeah,
though,
because
I have to build it. I have to build it before I can. That's why I think reality. I mean, I take zero credit in creating reality, but being there during the explosion, I think that I did so well in that reality world of television because you're giving me so much to work with. I can work with that. I trust me and you. I trust me with me and you quicker than I would just trust me alone, especially back then. Meaning, I didn't believe I had talent. I believed that I had to collaborate with people to tap into my inner talent because I didn't think I had talent. But if I hung out with people who had talent, things seemed to work out. And for a long time, I built my friend group, my career group, and then your career group and your friend group become the same thing.
Right.
That's where it gets good. And then they go in all these different directions. I'm not the one that went in different directions. They go in different directions, and they bring me along with them. And I think that's the coolest part.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's just but like talking about MTV. You was at MTV coming in at the height because I think at that time it was, you said the early 90s, 97. You had just had Yo MTV Rap starting to go off. Then you had one of my favorite shows, Beavis and Butthead, which everybody was into. And then you start getting into the reality shows, The Real World and Road Rules. So like MTV, like to be on MTV, you had to be somebody to be in that building.
Oh yeah.
So
I thought so too. I wasn't.
So
I was no one in that building, but I was just someone who met people. It's so weird. I was not hired for what I knew. I was hired because of my database. I got hired to want to be a VJ, casted choose or lose team. So I was always doing these big nationwide searches. So I worked on Fox News, Hannity and Combs first, and then a producer brought me over to MTV, and a producer brought me inside MTV, and then when they were ready to build the talent development department, there I was, the guy who could wire 2 VCRs together to edit, when all the executives were spending $5,000 in the edit bay because they didn't know how to wire 2 VCRs or have the time, to be honest, to understand how to pause, record, and edit, on 2 VCRs. And I had the infrastructure. I digitized my bosses. I was the one that went around the building, and I was like, we need to put our information in digital. We shouldn't have these Rolodexes anymore. We're going to know more people than we like. I was this person who's like, they're coming. Technology's coming.
Yeah. Bro,
I got the MTV.
I mean, what was that?
Yeah. It was what was it called? Napster? No, yeah, Napster. Came out, like right
it was,
when in 1999.
Crashed my computer. Crashed my computer about 1 billion times.
Yeah. Wait, if you could actually set the time on the VCR though, then you were a wizard.
Yeah.
You were a wizard. So if you were actually,
I was beyond slow play, long play. I had that all figured out. Put the tape over the little thing you can pop out the lock on the VCR on the tape so it doesn't record over it. No, I got to MTV just as Ed and Dre, just as Yo MTV had left already. Tyrese was at the network. Tyrese was holding down the conversation, and when Tyrese left, it was our department's responsibility to find that replacement. I think it was Tech, to be honest. Tech from Real World Hawaii. He was the host of Direct Effect. Like between Ananda, first it was Ananda for like 3 or 4 years. Ananda's the one who brought me into MTV, by the way. That's like the one you say the one person can change your life. Ananda changed my life in an hour. She picked me out of the crowd in Times Square. I got to ask Whitney Houston a question. I was all ready. I was going to ask her I was going to ask Whitney, what's it like recording with Mariah Carey on the Prince of Egypt soundtrack? And then when the stage manager points to Whitney and she points me out where I am, and she goes, he's going to ask you the question. And she reads the question, and I see Whitney say, I'm not answering that question.
Classic Whitney.
I was like, what? Just like, no. And Ananda was like, oh, honey, it's not going to work out, but thank you so much. I was like, if you need anything, I'd love to come back. And she's like, tomorrow we're doing a very Busta Christmas special. And I was like, wait, I want to come to a very Busta Christmas special. Are you kidding me? That's sounds like like throw me in the audience on that. And she's like, here's the casting director. And he's like, if you have like 20 friends, suddenly now there's a chair and Busta is going to go through and just kind of like read Christmas carols and kind of do it in his own way. So every time that circulates, you see me like a romper room. I'm like the dude on the floor, like swaying side by side, just being part of pop culture and happy to bring. And I'm bringing people in. This is what Ananda did. She kept the door open wide enough for me to get my foot in, so I can start bringing people in. And when you can prove yourself to be a source, especially to a platform like MTV, where there's so much movement and they just moved into Times Square and there was a lot of growth happening. I came in at a time where I could like reveal that I had some access to some talent, by the way, mostly because of that 700 person blast that I put out when I was in school. So that worked out well.
Yeah.
Although I felt bad for them when they're coming to like episodes of like sit in the audience of the Tom Green show and they have no clue what that's about. And then they're getting like vibrators thrown at their laps and like all the weird, cockroaches, like the weird things that Tom would do. So, but it's been a blast.
I remember that show.
It's been a blast. That was like where it started.
Would you say that was like one of the best ages of television, like back in there? Because as you're going through like all of the shows and all of the things you had to go through to get on these shows and what you brought to the table, I'm just reminded of how good television was and how much thought was actually put into the production of these shows. And now it's all reality, but kind of like,
it's not the reality.
It's the Opinionated podcast. No, I don't know what you mean. Say it.
It's kind of trashy.
It goes fast, right? It goes fast. You know what's changed though? The audience. I gotta say it. As much as you're gonna give them, I used to give MTV a lot of credit. It's like an ex, like you wish them well. They did really great. It just didn't end up working out. But then now I'm like, but she's changed. She's a whole different beast now than when I dated her. MTV. What MTV had though back then was us. We watched the youth culture, watched television, and moved on it. And like as I said, I worked on like Wanna Be a VJ, and I got to go out in the field and meet thousands of people. And I was in a room one-on-one with them, interviewing them one-on-one back then, 25 years ago. And those people have turned into podcasters and news correspondents and journalists and housewives and like all these places in media that they all fall into. To be honest, that's why I'm hyped about what's happening in podcasts right now. Everyone's like, is it too crowded? I'm like, too crowded. I worked at MTV until I left MTV in 2007, and people say reality TV didn't start until 2010. What? Because of the Housewives. Are you kidding me? Wow. Plenty of time to make my impact here.
Are they kidding me?
The first show, my first like introduction to reality show was the one the one Flavor Flav was on way before he had Flavor of Love. It was him. Who was it?
Yeah, but they were all in the house.
It was him,
together.
Vanilla Ice, Celebrity. I think it was Celebrity something.
It's a real life.
But that wasn't this a real life? I can't remember. But I would watch that every day.
Not important.
No, it was important. It was like that was like my introduction into reality TV. Like that in the real world at the time was like, how did they get these people to live in this house, and why are they always fucking fighting for having sex? Like, how do I be on this show? But I was a kid at the time.
It was a surreal life. Surreal life was like part of what VH1 called celeb reality back in the day. That was really the construct of celebrities living in a house together, and what could it sort of like the Celebrity Big Brother version that came out that really put them on the map, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
speaking of something like the Big Brother, I'm going to get in trouble if I'm going to get in trouble. I don't ask you this question. My wife is going to bust me upside my head.
Yes.
Big Brother, Survivor, Fear Factor. You had a hand in this show called The Challenge that I think it comes every Wednesday. My wife leaves the room, make sure she doesn't fucking say anything to me, goes there for hours and watches. I'm like, this is Fear Factor. She was like, no, this came out before Fear Factor. I'm like, it did? Like,
it's OG.
Like when I was just, it was OG. She has me like, holy shit, like this Fear Factor, Survivor, Big Brother, all wrapped in one show. Like when they came to you with that ideal, did you look at it like, or did you see like it could work?
See the potential.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. By the way, yeah, challenges. We're pre-Rogan, pre-Fear Factor. At a point in time, I think in game shows where Anderson Cooper is the host of a show called The Mole before he even became a CNN host. So I can even go back really deep into my timeline here. The challenge. You want to know the sickest thing? The challenge. Bjorn and Murray pitched MTV the challenge. What they did was they were looking for a way to grow the brand without needing more road rules. I don't know if no, I said it. So that it is the truth. It is what it is. So Real World was doing well. Road rules stuck around because it gave us new talent to an excuse to do something new with an audience with talent that an audience was so deeply connected with. Because like at that point, Real World, they weren't seen as contestants or participants. They were like special subjects of something we spent a year with or 6 months, kind of scrutinizing and living with. We had a real emotional connection to them. To push them to a challenge was interesting because we were invested in them. So I think there was Battle of the Sexes and Battle of the Sexes 2, which OG Mark hosts. And then I get a call that they want to have they want to no longer let Cast host it. They're looking for a host. And I got the call on Tuesday. I started doing my research, and then that Saturday on Saturday Night Live, Johnny Mosley hosted, and he was like the Olympic golden boy, and he was hysterical, and he was in New York, and the executive from MTV is a big skier. So sometimes you need to know how to speak the language of the room. So I'm like, this is, and at a point in time where ESPN2 has taken pretty much all the male viewers of MTV. There's no more Rock and Jock Music Festival, Sports and Music Festival. Nothing with an athlete is sticking anymore. And I thought, this is my way that I can get someone in. And we got Johnny. Johnny is an Olympic skier, an Olympian. So he's busy in the winter, but available in the summer. Then we ended up linking up with Dave Mira, God rest his soul. And Dave, just as BMX was exploding, got to work with us. He did 2 seasons, and then we had his Pike season. He became the face of BMX quickly. And Johnny and and TJ Lavin and I met the very first Rock and Jock Music Festival in 1998. I'm like sweeping his Porsche. I just want to leave a good impression for this athlete. And I'll never forget TJ. We were friends 3 or 4 years. And when he came to New York, he just got a deal with William Morris. He's a songwriter. So he got a music deal. And he was so excited. He comes to his friend at MTV to tell him he gets a music deal, which makes sense. I can't wait to see him. It's so cool.
Big news.
And he comes in my office and he looks around, and I've got like flat out rainbow flags and LGBTQ everywhere. And at a point in time where it was squirmish to bring up people's like personalities, TJ was like, dude, he's like, I had no clue you were gay. I just thought like you literally took all of the women away from me. I didn't realize that we could be in like working together. And we had this moment where probably things you shouldn't say at work. I felt so seen. I could cry now thinking about like, I am looking for an athlete to fill the shoes of a show about the challenge, a physical, mental, emotional show about the challenge. And here I have this guy who I feel like is going to fight for my rights, whether I'm in the room or not, let alone when I am in the room. It's easy for me to feel like you got my back when you're in the room with me. Cause like, I know what that feeling feels like the getting gassed, but here was someone who I really felt respected and seen. And he brought it up in a way that was so embedded in kindness and in comfort that it made me fight really hard for him to be the one to get that job. And he wasn't who Bjorn Murray wanted. I only say that because he tells everybody that. But it's one of his buddies who was up for the gig, and it would have been a good name. You all knew, y'all would have known the names, and you probably, if you followed, sports back then, you certainly would now, recognize it. But TJ, man, and then look at what he's gone through physically. He's like had some pretty near death experiences. That guy, Absolutely. I can't imagine a better athlete to be in that spot. And now the show is even bigger. Like now we're like on CBS. Now we're like,
the whole
it's like.
thing.
I was like,
I was
just with Anissa like last weekend. She was in New York for Dave Matthews, and I was like, how come everyone's coming on our network? when do we start going on those other networks? Like I always see MTV on CB, and I'm gonna get my people from MTV on those big networks. It's nice to see the Miz doing his thing, you know, on big networks.
Oh yeah,
right.
What's this
Cool
cool
to see him. Yeah.
No, he does not do. Yeah,
You don't do that. That's John Cena. That's John Cena.
that's
Excuse
John
me.
Cena.
Excuse
Jesus,
me.
bro, watch wrestling, bro. Like, come on, like
Excuse me.
they could
I
not
used
stand
to.
the Miz in WWE. It was like this guy is such a like he would like break the fourth wall in wrestling all the time.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
hated
God.
that.
Oh, the suspension of disbelief is broken there. Oh, now I can't believe any of this.
It kills us to this day. So we're gonna get to VPE TV, but I got a couple questions.
All right.
Okay, a couple questions. First one, I just kind of want to go off of what you just said, especially back then. Do you think it was a bit more challenging to make the connections that you made in the industry, considering, like you said, the rainbow flags everywhere and all that? Do you think it was more challenging, or was it kind of just, you just kind of did your thing and,
So
that makes any sense?
The challenging part would have been if I didn't work for MTV, but because I was inside MTV, I didn't have to please some of the people who might not relate to being marginalized or being from a different background or having a different vocabulary or skill set or even life goals or life understanding. I had to just speak their language, to be honest. No, I think that actually being me outside of MTV helped me. It helped me honestly show up in places where I can be humbled. And I love being a podcast guest. I love being a guest in people's lives where I get to make impact. It's like a weird way to say it, but as a collaborator, that's what I've done my whole time. I go to people's homes and then I shoot inside their homes. And like, I couldn't think of a safer place for us to collab than in a place that you've created that you have control over. So I think in a lot of ways it let me show up in a non-intimidating way, especially with the ridiculous amount of talent that I brought to the network and got to work with like a team of about 14 or 15 collectively in our department that kept bringing in people to our network. But as a casting person at MTV, I didn't go out looking for, this is a weird thing to say, but I didn't go out looking for Lala. I didn't go out looking for DJ Clue. I called up my contact at Def Jam, who happens to be Gabby, who's a good person to now know. And it's awesome knowing people who move up in the, I call up my contact and I'm like, who should we have? And then she gives me a short list of people. I'm good. And by the way, first and foremost, those people are going to get a fast track to me because I can't wait to see who, like the people I trust already are in my life. And I'm going to make sure Gabby, Erica, whoever it is that is a source for me, continues to see me as a source. Anytime I can get you more VMA tickets, we shouldn't say that, but it happens. It's politics, but it's so long ago. TRL tickets. You got a new launch with a new artist, and like they can host. All right, like let's bring them in. I got 2 shows that I'm looking for hosts on. Let's see if we can work together. Because I'd rather go to dinner with you and hang out with you and your artist and spend time with you than some other random person that I have to introduce to my world. Like there's like a weird piece of, that part of it that who I want in my life. And those people, those connectors are big connectors. Those are people that go on to be production company owners and EPs or showrunners of multiple types of shows. But that was a big thing for me, was not to necessarily look for what I was doing, because we worked with those people ended up becoming gigantic big stars. And it's in all the conversations. It's the details. I talk to 100 people doing VJs, or that means I'm talking to radio DJs. I'm talking to students in college that have college, radio or papers or journalists. And so I'm getting data points from all of them. All of that informs the alchemy of what gets developed next. So I'm set up to be successful because I don't think I know what everyone likes. Everyone just told me. It's pummeling over and over in my head. We just had this conversation. I just asked them where do they get their music source from. I just asked them how would their friends describe your music taste. I just asked them all these things, trying to figure out if they, could be a voice for music or pop culture on our network. And I take all of those data points and it helped me create. And that's what I'm doing. That's my sick trick that I'm doing now in podcasting. Same thing. Right. We all create different. We all distribute different, and we're all making money completely different.
Wow. And
Yeah,
and
because you went back then. Oh, I was just about to say because
no,
back
go
then you
ahead.
had, you saying the different, like you had BT, you had MTV for as the powerhouses, you had TRL, and then you had 106 in Park, which is like as a teen you would flip back like just because of the guests they would have, like when TRL had G Unit come through, it was like holy shit, like y'all got the whole entire G Unit here, or BT would have 106 would have Bow Wow at the time, which was the hottest thing. He was Mr. 106 in Park. Like, do you think that magic like that can ever be created back in the TV space where, you got these two giants eating each other as far as like music and pop culture? Because you went to these shows to get how you dressed, how you spoke, what music was hot at the time, everything. Like that's where you had to tune in there to be in sync with what's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
Do you think that era is gone, or you think that can ever be like recreated? Because
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect, I think the era is gone. But could a new form of that come about? Yeah, I think in podcasting. So, for example, um, um, I think we met through Podmatch. Is that how we had
yes.
met? So there's this
Yep.
awesome platform called Podmatch. I actually call it my TRL studio. I love going down to Podmatch, seeing who's talking, who's doing what, asking if I can hop in the conversation and collaborate a little, see what happens, record a little bit, put out a little bit of content, and then I would go back upstairs and go about doing my work. And I let certain key people see the pieces that I'm creating, and I would retain so much information. And I keep sharing it more, and it changes the alchemy of my output, and it changes every next conversation. I just today hit my 100th episode this morning, so I think this is episode 104 for me right
Congratulations.
now. Yeah, by the way,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I'm doing, and I'm literally doing the work now that I did then. Then at MTV, I was paid to meet everybody, so now I had to find a way to get paid, and I have clients that pay, I have sponsors that sponsor master classes that I do. So I've created my own ecosystem where I can get paid, and I don't have to get paid by networks to get people hired for a network where they may take a right or all rights or your story, or like where you're performing for someone else's IP. I'm a big fan. And again, I think I got this because I worked at MTV with, like, it's weird to say Beyonce and Mandy Moore and Ashton and Jessica Simpson are like solopreneurs, but they were like entrepreneurs of one with a small, super tight team that eventually scaled big and big.
Absolutely.
But I know the power in our stories and owning that IP. And if I can help people, us, own our stories and make great stories, help them be great story ask great questions, ways to maximize not just amplify, but aggregate, syndicate. We're on, is this podcast, for example, on IMDb? Are you getting your credits on IMDb? Is it a data point that's talking to Google that tells Google all the guests you've ever been on have been on this show? Are the awards, being connected in a way that helping you get discovered? I can now help people who own content leverage fame, leverage content, leverage visibility to increase their shareability so they're more discoverable and consistently more discoverable, not just like a one-time gig, but building the
So
ecosystem for it.
how do you navigate with so many podcasts out there and being on so many different shows? Like, how do you navigate the waters of saying these guys got it? All right, maybe a little bit more time. These guys have it. I liked how the show was laid out, but the host is not really like pop the screen. Like, how do you navigate the waters?
As a guest, I mean, I'm humbled and honored to be here. I have no judgment. I'm not judging or criticizing. I don't come in with a critical eye. My podcast strategy now is people, not podcast. I'll tell you what, there's some really cool things I've seen. I've seen things like people who talk about mental health will have a disclaimer sometimes before their podcast. So I saw someone once ask me if I would read the disclaimer, which meant that now I read the disclaimer. So when they sent me the email, it said disclaimer by Vinnie Potestivo, episode with so-and-so. And I was like, oh, this person's going to get me to listen to me and then share me with everybody else because I did the disclaimer, and they're going to get me on the interview. That is so smart. Like,
That's pretty cool.
I'm like, that's so smart. By the way, intros, outros, you can think there's a couple of different ways I saw them leverage that. Even for the ads, I'm guilty. I'm like this close to finishing my ad. I have a bunch of people saying nice things about me, but I didn't put it in a 30-second ad yet. And that's the only thing holding me back from having a 30-second ad, and everyone else and some of my friends' podcasts right now who are begging me, asking me for the spot. And I'm like, I just got to do it. I'm holding myself back just because there's a little bit of perfectionism in there, but that's okay. There will be a launch date. I put this out there because this is happening. But
you know
You
what?
sound like my boy Dre right there.
After talking to you though, and I promise I'll get to a question. But after talking to you on this interview, I kind of get three things, right? Three major things that stick out to me that I feel like are important to you, and that's genuine connection. You know what I mean? Listening. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is, and emotionally connection. That's the three. But because to have all of these people trust you, and obviously we read up on you, we watched a couple things, and to see the people say such nice things about you, that's not an accident. Nobody's going to do that just for the sake of doing it. That's some genuine connection there. With that said, Danielle Fishel, who was my childhood crush. We talk about Mandy Moore, Danielle. How do you meet? Where did these people come from?
And want to know? This is the funniest thing about the Danielle Fishel story. By the way, this is like pop culture. MTV did this thing called MTV Snowed In. Do you remember MTV Snowed In? It was like the winter version of Spring Break.
Right. Yep.
And we had NSYNC come visit us, and all the guys were able to bring some friends. And at that point, Lance was dating Danielle. Lance Bass was dating Danielle Fishel. And so of course this is the best story ever. And I love that I love that I get to tell the story now as an out gay man who gets to like look back at this moment. So I'm so thankful, Lance. Lance has actually introduced me to quite a couple of people who've changed my life. He brought Danielle. I think we were supposed to have like the Freaks and Geeks cast was supposed to do something on one of our shows, and something dropped out, and we suddenly had a spot where we needed a celebrity to come in and sing karaoke. I think it was the pilot of Say What Karaoke. And long story short, this is another Busta Rhymes. I love that I got started at MTV in '98 because like my soundtrack is very Busta, by the way. But Danielle Fishel sang "Give Me Some More." Yeah, is it? By the way, that's why when I lived in I lived in Dumbo for a little bit. He lived in Dumbo, and I would always I get starstruck. And only once did I ever come up to him and I was like, I was in your very Busta Christmas special, and he was like, oh. I was like, yeah. I guess that would be my reaction to it. So you came to that during the day on purpose, and you didn't get paid, as I know. And she sang "Give Me Some More," and or the version of it that MTV played, and it was a standout moment. And then 3 years later, when MTV was looking to take that show and bring it to Spring Break, and bring it to the Summer House, when we were looking for a new VJ, Danielle's name came up on a short list. So we called on her and said, hey, you did really well in karaoke. Kind of makes sense. And if you ever want to host, come on in. And we met her in LA, and it was cool. It actually kicked off her hosting career. And afterwards, after hosting on MTV, she went on to E! in the Style Network and has done really great. And her podcast now, and super cool. By the way, it's so cool. I got to work with Topanga because I watched it. I was like,
my man.
That was see, that's what I would lose it.
Yeah.
Like your job sounds so freaking cool. I would lose my mind with being around these people. I'd be so nervous. I watched that show. I listened to that album. I'm like,
well, Vinny's got a job to do also.
Cool. I know he has a job. That's the thing, man. I think the coolest I've ever been is I've.
What?
No, go ahead.
No,
I'm listening to you. You are a guest. You have the interesting story, interesting life. Go ahead.
I didn't watch MTV necessarily so much, but my brothers and sisters did. So Danielle Fishel was someone I got starstruck. Nick Cannon was someone that, and when I started working with Nick before we officially did Wild 'N Out, we hired Nick to come to MTV. To be honest, we hired Nick to come to MTV to replace Carson. Nick was most likely going to take over TRL. Nick didn't want that job, that schedule, and really fought hard to get Wild 'N Out picked up. And it's actually a big lesson I learned from that kid. It was like, I say kid because we were like so young ago.
Right.
But he invested in himself. MTV said no. He went out and it was Christmas break. He and Christina Milian were dating. They went out, they shot some footage a while and out. Christina's the original other celebrity, when you look at the format. And then came back with tape to show MTV what they've, and then had to go get Cat and like how to get and then how to really show the level of like comedic talent that we could make. You know what I mean? And I look at Mikey Day and so many people from those first few seasons that got their start there, and no wonder why it's a huge thing. And I see them.
That's crazy.
DJ
So
D-Rec
MTV
and Nick
didn't
like
want Wild 'N.
I would say.
So MTV didn't want. They didn't want. Not didn't, but like it's okay. Because remember they had to show your mama. Yeah, I am. They had to show your mama. I remember that's on MTV where they when they were just busting. I'm like, why wouldn't you want Wild 'N Out? It was like a derivative of that, but with like top level comedians, not people you was finding off the street.
On the street, right? And that's what's funny about Yo Mama. This is one of my epic fails, is because Wilmer, dated. So I was kind of like Mandy Moore's talent coordinator. We met Wilmer through Mandy Moore because they dated a bit ago, and so we really kind of kept close to the. It's weird to say this, kept close to the circle. Like I met Christina Milian when she was dating Nick. Like there's really this like family kind of tie that happened. I don't know, at MTV or the circle was tight. Let's sort of just put it that way. Like once you got in, put you on 1,000 shows. You know what I mean? Like as long yeah. And then MTV, MTV2, MTV3, MTV Desi, MTV.com, and everything kind of exploded there. But it was cool. It was cool to get to learn with those people that, they weren't just talent. They had to get in their room as talent, but they turned it quickly into gigantic opportunities. And I saw them take it really seriously, take it to the next level. And I got to help them shape their contracts in a way that I know that I was impactful in. Like I know when Nick was doing his deal with Wild 'N Out, we had just cut a check for the Osbournes because they overperformed. And then all of a sudden there was this idea of overperformance. The idea of overperformance in TV, I think, comes up in about 2003 when there's a measurement of underperformance. So we value overperformance when we're seeing underperformance.
Right.
So the question was like, what do you think? How many people do you think this network is expecting the show to bring in? If it goes higher, could we build incremental, So like, I know I got to make a really cool impact legally on how deals are structured at the beginning of reality TV time, as all those deals got duplicated and, sort of add lots of clauses added for lots of different reasons. Really a powerful time to learn how to work with independent creators, solopreneur, founder, right? You agree they're founder-led businesses, right? They are their product, but they're also their business as well. That I can vibe with. And I work with like QVC brands and Sephora and Blue Mercury brands. I work with journalists, actors, podcasters who are looking for more distribution. So if you own your content, I'm like, and you write a blog, first off, do you write a blog about every episode of your podcast?
We will now.
Well, here's let me reframe that. What are the benefits of writing a blog for every podcast is so that Google knows and understands what you're talking about. But I'm taking my blog RSS and I'm getting it Google News verified. And now I have people discovering me through Google who are taking my podcast RSS and my blog RSS, and they're pulling content to their websites. It's my content that people are reading. It's my visibility that comes back to me. It's my content that's being aggregated and distributed. But I have to put my content in a platform that allows mass distribution like that, versus social media, where I feel most people are amplifying their content now. And most of what happens in social media stays on that platform, or not even the platform. It stays on, what happens in Reels stays in Reels. What happens in Stories stays in Stories.
Absolutely.
TikTok, I think I hear TikTok is coming out with a secondary app for podcasters, kind of like how Facebook made us download Messenger to connect, separately. But to me, That's a game. That's about market voice in the app store saying we've got the top 3 apps. You know, that's going to drive me crazy if that's where we're headed.
It can get murky, especially with that TikTok stuff, but that's a pretty cool thing. Now, right now, I kind of see you like where we're talking about like business, you know what I mean? And how to get your business going. And number one, thank you for those tips. Cause we're going to get right on that. But let's talk about VPE TV. Where did the concept for that? Actually, can you explain it to our listeners and just kind of go over where the concept came from?
Yeah, I mean, first off, full transparency, VPE means a couple of things. Vinnie Potestivo is my name, so Vinnie Potestivo Entertainment TV. Yeah. Also, because I'm sticking with those letters, I've created the Verified Podcast Exchange.tv. What I wanted to do was create a space where I can collaborate. And I'm looking into the future, and I'm saying, I got to have ownership. I want to have ownership the same way that YouTube wants ownership over all the ads and space on its pages, the same way Amazon wants ownership over all the ads and everything that you see on its page. I want ownership over the experience of content, the context of content, and I want to be able to find a way to scale. So VPE TV for me became quickly a way to, and again, to be a source, not a story. How could I be a stage? And in doing so, to be honest, reinvent my brand, digitize my brand in a way that I didn't do in television, but do it the same exact. I'm doing it the same exact way, except 25 years ago, I would have to remove my voice from this tape, and then the network would just get you two, and I'd have some videos, and you guys would be funny, and I'd put some energy to it, and it would be a casting reel. And so I've been this Zoom, Skype, talk through. This feels so normal to me. I don't think I could. I have to be honest. It's technology that's letting me show up today. I don't think I would feel comfortable in a podcast studio or at a TV network. My hands get sweaty and like I get weird and performative. And maybe I'll calm down as I get through it. I'm about a year into my active podcast journey. We're having one. But I look back at 2006 when my first podcast experience. Back then in 2006, Fat Man Scoop and his wife created a podcast called Man and Wife.
I remember that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. That's so crazy. My wife loved it.
It was cool because back then you needed access to microphones. So the only place to do that was late night at a radio network or station where you could, record. I remember hearing it and I was like, I think that you guys should record this because I know he had the equipment and I was always impressed that Scoop had that level of equipment, lights and microphones. I was like, you should record this in bed. I want to hear like the body movement and like springs, not sex or anything like that, but I want to hear chemistry. Like I'm here. You're in a sterile booth. It sounds weird. And we took that idea, went to MTV New Business, and we said to MTV New Business that this is a podcast. It's 2006. Their podcasts are now on iPods. They're not on iPhone. Podcasting are on iPods, but not iPhones yet. That becomes a big data point in 2007. So in 2006, we get MTV.com to invest in manandwifetv.com, I think is what it was called back then. And then in 2007, when the podcasts become an app on the phone, I turn over to the development team and I say, hey, we just got $100,000 greenlit for this like website series for this podcast. Wouldn't it be crazy if BET came in and like stole our show from us? Or do you want to do a late night talk show about? So I'm like, I had to have leverage. I needed to have, immediacy to it. And I wasn't going to be honest, I grew up watching MTV at the point where like, just when I was started to work there, like just when I became aware of MTV, to be honest, like, so 97, 98. It's kind of when I got to college is when I had access to TV. Loveline wasn't for me. Those weren't the types of relationships that I was in. I didn't identify with Adam or Dr. Drew Pinsky. I thought that a married couple talking about sex could be really fucking cool for the MTV demographic, as opposed to two guys that are just basically making light of everything that comes across their desk, basically is what it felt like. And I love that experience, by the way. And it took me 15 years to come back to do my own podcast. to finally take the leap. And it's my life's changed since then. It's completely changed. I now get to write a book. I'm doing public speaking. It all really happens when you put the work into it. But I found a way to put work into it without being overwhelmed, one-on-one, or here, it's just the three of us. That to me, that's digestible. I can process that, and I really appreciate what you said about listening. I can hear that. I can hear you and me. I'm not like numb to what's going to happen next. That's cool that you create this space, that we can create this space to be in it together.
Hey, podcasting changed our life too. So yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, man. I ain't gonna lie, it changed my life. It changed my life dramatically. I was going through something at the time, and I needed to speak to people, and it was just cool. That's why I love podcasting. It's most, like you said, you did reality TV, and you loved it, but this is like real reality. There's no like, stop here. We got to edit this out. We got to put this in. Oh, this mic drop. Oh, let's do. It's just let it go. People love to hear that. I think people love podcasts because they feel like they're in the room with a conversation between everybody. Because you ever go in the room and you see people have an interesting conversation, you just sit there and you just want to hear what these people are talking with. That's what like podcast is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that part of it. I love that part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we went we just actually went over our, what were we, 135th episode, Kevin, if you don't remember. Okay. Yeah. And we
136, bro. 136.
Nice. Congrats.
Appreciate it.
The honeymoon is over, huh?
Yeah, the real work began a long time ago. But I love it. And I did music. We actually both used to make music, make beats and all that stuff. So this kind of came as second nature to us, but the talking and being able to be interesting, that was a learning curve, but I think we're getting it around 136.
We get. Yeah, because we didn't at first we didn't interview, like we didn't interview guests. Like it was just us picking random topics and us just being ourselves. And people was like, "Oh, it's so cool." And then we we did a couple of guests. We have our friends come through and was like, "Yo, it's easier because it's just natural conversations, these awesome stories, these backstories. Like even like when we used to interview like book authors, like just talking to them, it was like Jesus, like I didn't know y'all went through this. Just to hear their story and their journey and how they got to where they at, it's so cool. That's why I love podcasting. Like this right here is the best time of my life when I get to sit on this mic, talk to somebody, have a good time for a few hours, and then it's back to reality.
And you're not exhausted. And you're not exhausted, right? You're almost energized. You have more energy. Maya Angelou says that creativity, the more you spend, the more you have. Warren Buffett says money, the more you spend, the less you have. I want to make sure people remember those two very different quotes from very different successful people, and stop asking for our content to be emotionally and financially rewarding. Sometimes it's nice when it works out together in sync, but that's often not how it works out. So as long as you're down for a non-linear experience, I think you're being for success. Wow. And non-linear means being for the long game, right? Like if you want short success out of this, what's going to happen in podcasting? We're all going to be like Van Gogh. Like just when we're done with podcasting, then our podcast is going to get really big. Hopefully we're around when it happens, to be honest, because we're early enough in this explosion of content that we very well could be, NASA could pick us to send us to send a signal to the moon. They're picking us from someplace. You got to create it to make it, right? Let them take it. So that's what and the more platforms that get created, the more content needs there are going to be. So
that's absolutely correct.
That's what's going to happen. Like everybody might have this view. Oh, I got to get money. Got to get money. How to get money off my podcast. Those will weed out weed out them people, and then you'll have the people that are left. Is like, look, I just love doing it because I love doing it. Like I love being here. I love having these dope conversations with these people. They don't like you. You don't have to be at our studio. You're at your house, but we're still having this dope ass conversation, getting these dope ass stories, and it's like, because when I leave certain interviews, I'm like, the energy's like, yo, I can't believe I spoke to this guy. Like we had who we had on Lynn May. Like we talked to this guy. He's he started his own weed company, his marijuana company. He was just telling how he got started and how, the people he smoked weed with from Cypress Hill, he's sitting in there with Corrupt smoking with Method Man. I'm like, dude, like that had to be fucking bomb just to see these people in their element. And because we was nervous at first, like when we started the interview, like here's this guy we seen in this suit, but he gets on here with an MF Doom t-shirt, and I'm here with my Wu-Tang t-shirt. I'm like, all right, I feel at ease now. Let's just have this conversation, talk about some weed, let's talk about your business, but let's just have this dope ass conversation, this dope ass experience, man. That's the best thing about podcast.
Well, there's a space for dope assness. Now that's the thing, is that there's a space for it.
You write that down.
There's a space for dope assness. There's a space. It's not like we're not successful in spite of having a moment like that. We're successful because we had moments like that. That's powerful. That's also, I think, why I show up now versus back then. And I show up and I got a little stutter and I got some mannerisms and double sayings and whatever the intricacies we're all supposed to be perfect at. I don't care. I try to get better slowly. I'm changing slowly. I'm moving so quick, you might not see it.
Doing good.
It's practice. Practice makes perfect. When I'm ready to get when it's ready for me to be big and ready, I'll be ready for it to be big and ready too. So I believe in that.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I think it's all about connectivity, man.
It is about connectivity. The power of people, though. You said connectivity. That just made me think. I got to audition Beyonce for Carmen, a hip opera. MTV did a movie called Carmen, a hip opera. And
I bought it.
Oh, did you? Yeah, because Robert Townsend directed it. Robert Townsend created like Eddie Murphy or Raw, and like Robert Townsend was like an amazing comedic director. And I was more nervous about being in the room with Robert than being with Beyonce. It was just the three of us when she was being interviewed. I was the casting assistant on the film, so it was just my job to hold the camera. But I got all crazy for some reason. I think like he's like, all right, Beyonce, now do your lines. And then Vinny's like, Vinny, you could be a director. This is your shot. Go. And I get like crawling on the floor and trying to get like these like gigantic cinematic shots. And Beyonce does her line, and Robert turns to me and says, Vin, I don't need anything fancy. I need your he takes my hand 6 inches from her face. It's not going to be in focus. All I'm looking at is her eyes. I can see she can act. I just want to look at her eyes. And I took that moment. I took that moment as like I interrupted something. I created an energy that some way he's giving me a note instead of giving Beyonce a note. And I know during an audition, every minute, every second counts, and we're scrutinizing all of this. And I remember just beating myself for years. I beat myself up because I was like, I mean, she got the gig, but still, like, I was like, I can't believe I thought that was my moment to do something like that. And then as I'm telling the story in podcasting about a year ago, I realized that he wasn't telling me anything. He was communicating with Beyonce. He was sharing the vision that he had in his mind. He was letting her know that eye contact matters. It's the most important thing that matters. Nothing else matters other than eye contact. And he didn't even have to tell her it. And she received that message without being told you did something wrong, or maybe you should do it this way. Like maybe we should just let people do things the way they're it's meant to be, but create a space where a shared vision can be shared, and collaboratively we can get there. And I realize now, 2 gigantic 1%er creators communicate. That's the silence, the power of the eye contact, and not being so specific and expecting something from people, but giving them the space to step into it. And like that was a really cool moment. And when you said, it's about the connections and the way that we're connecting with each, like that was a big moment where I sit back and I realize the power in a shared vision, the power in being clear, having clarity, on the vision, the power of executing it. So it's all about the power of people. And the clearer we are, the more we can share the end result, and less we have to focus on the stories, the more we can prove that we're a source and not tied to the story. Because I'll tell you what, the story, if you're like me, the story's going to change. It's going to be standard definition, 4:3 TV. That's not even going to like make sense for social media. We get old. Media gets old,
Yeah.
But those relationships, God bless, man. I can't believe I went in with that mentality. I'm so glad I did. A lot of people work at MTV. A lot of people don't have those relationships that I walked away with. I'll never forget that.
Absolutely. All right. I
Hey, bro,
think this kind of went better than I ever could have imagined. If you could leave our listeners with anything, what would it be?
Oh, create. I think that representation over perfection now matters more than anything. Get in the conversation before the conversation closes, before people misinterpret your presence as lack of interest. Get out there and have a conversation. There are some places and platforms on TikTok and Instagram where you kind of have to lead the conversation to stand out. There are other platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, Mastodon, some other the decentralized ones where you can jump in on the conversations. Like I'm having fun jumping in on other people's conversations and making connections. I don't feel like I have to lead every conversation that I'm a part of. And being a guest on podcast is proof of that. And by the way, you could have a guest, you could have a podcast or not have a podcast. You could have a company or not have a company. You could have something to sell or not have something to sell. There's a billion reasons why people are taking themselves out of being guests on podcasts. And I have to say, like, I'm here because I know that I could not have spent an hour and had, by the way, made 2 friends the way that we just connected on this, which I'm looking forward to. Also, the content we just created in the whole process is ridiculous. And also I can't wait to get some of those. And I haven't gotten a chance to talk about some of those people. So I always get excited when a new story sort of comes to mind. And then the photos and the social and the content and the blog. I mean, it's impactful. It's impactful. And what we do next matters. So just that's what I like to say is just create and don't wait for it to be perfect. I launched my podcast and I changed my strategy 3 weeks into it. And then I changed my format 2 days after that. I changed my thumbnails and I changed my album cover and I go back and I rewrite descriptions and I even change episode titles after a while. You can change all of that. It's all permanent. It's out there forever. But it is customizable, and you do have, if you have control and ownership over that content, you can go back. And that's where I think Twitter and some of these social networks that don't allow you to edit and restrict you from owning your content that you're creating. And I think that's the next big conversation we're going to have as creators. You know, we talked briefly about this decentralized world of social content. It goes over everyone's head. But let me say it this way: no one owns podcasting. So that's the power of the people. Like no one owns podcasting. That's right. Verizon, not even a company comes close, by the way. Not even Spotify, owns podcasting. So right. That's in us, the people. We independent business owners, small business owners, brand owners, personal brand owners. That's powerful. If we use it, it's powerful. Bro. If it's not, it's a shame.
On the way.
No, hopefully we use it, bro.
Yeah, man, we'll reach out. I'm here to collaborate. I put energy out.
No, I feel it,
bro. You do, man. I feel that energy, man. Like I really do. Like this is a genuine. So I like this is another dope ass conversation we had, man.
Yes. Well, there's always a
so glad for this, man. I'm like, exactly.
I love that. You see me in the 5-star review in like 1 hour. It's gonna come up. You exactly what I'm writing in your podcast right now. If anyone listening to this and you don't believe me, come check me out in the 5-star reviews. Leave these guys a whopping 5-star. Tell them that this is the episode that finally got you to crack to leave the episodes. Follow, subscribe. But yeah, I love that idea.
Love this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love you, man, bro. Thank you for taking it. Listen, thank you for taking your time and this, man. We appreciate it, man. We get the energy you brought to the show, man. It was much needed. That's like I said, that's at the beginning before we got on. We just love to have a good time. You brought the good time to the show, man. So we thank you, man.
Thank you.
Peace.
All right.
I love it. Peace, man.
It's always fun at the end. I'm always like, no, you hang up. No, you hang up.
We do that all the time, though. And we record everything. So it's just like wherever it feels good, we'll just cut it there. But I was
on the call with Alex.
Man.
I was on the phone with Alex Sanfilippo, the dude from Podmatch, and he said someone asked him like, what's the best? They were talking about something that they were impressed guests do, and he goes to me, and Vinny, the way you end podcast, man, is the best way I've ever heard it. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting because I have no strategy on how to end podcasts. Like that's something I'm doing unintentional. What is it? And he's like, well, I heard you do it to a couple of people. And I was like, what? He's like, well, you're like, all right, talk to you later. He's like, thank you so much. I love you. And I'm like, oh, that's so. I really do get to that point where I'm like, I really respect the space we're in. This is like, and this is forever. That is like Superman stuck in glass, thrown in space. That's forever what we just did that hour. No one can take that back from us. That's cool. I like that. I like that about podcasts. And you know what? You own it. I like that even more.
Oh, I love that.
We definitely love that, man.
Get your release signed too, by the way. While we're on that one. Cool. Well, thanks for this. Hey, so I have I'm gonna shoot you private chat. I'm gonna shoot you this link here. This is I have a podcast.com. So this will take you to a form. You can both fill this out because this is for the podcast not just the podcast.
Got you.
But this is the form that I use to take in information from podcasters that we use for featured podcaster articles. And that's something that we publish every day from our website as well. And that's available on Apple News and Google News and Bing News and Yahoo News and all that. So that's how I leverage my podcast in a unique way, like as a newsy kind of platform. I don't know. Maybe like LinkedIn might buy me as a podcast. A weird thing, but I don't know. Stand out. You gotta be different.
You gotta listen. The podcast is so, like I said, podcast is so new. Nobody knows what to do with this thing because it's like everybody has one. Everybody's independent. Like, how do we get this into one area where we can just have super,
And you
Spotify's
guys
trying.
They've got a lot of money and a lot of access to do what they want, what they could do. Yeah. This is something that right now I have it set up as the Creator Hub. I make you sign up for a free account to get access to this. In about a week, I'm going to remove the free account, so it's just going to be on my website. But I have on here, I think you guys would be interested in how to get your podcast on IMDb, like a step-by-step guide. I also have 50 creator platforms that I think any podcaster should just be on. Just sign up with your social media information. If a brand wants to work with you, at least you're on a list where they can find you. I just made like $500 doing.
Oh my gosh!
I just made money. Yeah, I was excited actually. I just made money doing some stupid thing for. Where is it? I'll show you 2 seconds and then we're done. All right, so it was, this is something, it's the art of shaving. So I have to post this in like 3 days or whatever. But so this comes to me as like a normal social media ask, like, hey, it's the art of shaving. What can you do for us? So it's my goal creatively to make sure I can bring it back to social audio or podcasting. So like, that's my vision to do that. And I don't know if you can, this is silly. I haven't even put this yet, but like.
Must add it to the phone.
Stupid.
Don't think it's stupid, bro.
With the Santa hat. Right on time.
And then this is where all of that's it. That's it. That's the embarrassing part. So I think
that's
something.
That's for like.
I got $500 for that, but it's all about. I made sure I shot a lot with my microphone because I'm not trying to be.
Hello?
Did I lose you? Did we lose you?
Yeah, here. I don't want brands reaching out to me asking me to promote their like shit. Like I'm actually not going to be good at that in the future. This was fun for me because I'm trying to show people how to take opportunity, be open to outcome, and then make it my opportunity. Meta, Facebook paid me $5,000 a month for 4 months to post 3 business reels at 3 different times throughout the week on my business page on Facebook. All I did was take my Facebook, my podcast content, edit it down vertically, and then use that for stories, which worked out well because now I have it for YouTube Shorts, and Pinterest TV just launched like a week and a half ago, so I can throw it on there too. Pinterest TV is there. Yeah, if you've been pinning, if it's one of those weird people that do Pinterest TV, like it's 2 weeks old, so it's the new, someone they're gonna pick someone's gonna be a
We
star.
gotta be on there.
The next step.
Yes, we gotta get on there. That is the next step.
A lot of information, man.
So all that info is there on that
Piggy bank of wealth.
hub. Yeah, it's all there. So 100 awards worthy of winning. The platforms I think you should be on. How to get your IMDb credits, and then there's about 60 international podcast platforms I think people should be on in 2023 that I just sort of did some research on, like English speaking podcast directories in other countries and territories that I don't think are on most people's map. For me, it's all about the micro distribution. So that list might be interesting to you also. You just got to plug your RSN once.
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, because we did Ghana. We did Ghana in India. Like we blew up in India somehow. I don't know how.
Yeah. And then, are you on Good Pods?
Yeah.
Are you on? You are on Good Pods?
Are we?
No,
I think so.
Oh.
No, we're not on. Because like that's what I used to do every day. Like, yo, where can I submit my RSS feed to? And it's like,
oh yeah, I like.
Yeah,
Good
that's
Pods.
like the.
Good Pods is a social network and directory, but the good thing about Good Pods is it's a smaller network, and like I've been number one in TV film, I've been number one in careers, number one in entrepreneur, number one in business. So I take that data point from goodpods.com, a small pond where I can be a big fish in a small pond. And that data point is on my sponsorship page. And I let people know that I'm ranking in a smaller pond, which shows that that ranking matters and I'm capable of ranking. I'm just not top 200 Apple. So like, excuse me, but this is the best I can do in the space that I could create. And I got to stand out somehow. So finding some of these smaller ponds and places, these smaller networks to stand out on, help me take ownership of that pond. That's what I'm doing in Podmatch now. I'm trying to meet as many people as possible.
See, that's smart. That's just smart.
People, not podcasts. I don't want to be on 80,000 podcasts. I want to meet 80,000 people. That's what I like.
Right.
And sometimes they're like, no, I don't want to do a pre-call. I'm like, you're an asshole. I don't even know. What do you mean you don't want to do a pre-call? I'm like begging you to get on the phone and ask, who does that? Are you kidding me? Like no guest wants to get on the phone and not record. I feel like, and they get paid on that platform now. I'm something with a crown or something. So people who find me on Podmatch get paid 10x what they get paid, what everyone else gets paid. So $200, I think $30 is what people get paid to interview me on podcasts now on that platform. That's weird.
I didn't know that. We just kind of get on there and just bring people on to do it.
Because we're having a hard time is with having people because they're supposed to when I reach out to them, they're supposed to set up like, oh, they accept my invite, and that's what gets me ranked and also what gets me to say, hey, I confirmed this interview. A lot of people are not doing that, man.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah,
that's the problem I'm running into.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you have to complete the interview all the way through. There's even been times where I won't. To be honest, sometimes I won't show up. If they've denied it that many times, I'm like, that's what's valuable to me is that the system knows we're meeting. If you can't do that for me, then we're just not meant to connect. It's not going to be a cute hour.
Right, exactly.
No,
that's
bro.
You need better internet, buddy. That's why I appreciated you. You actually confirmed. You sent emails. Like it was a way better experience. To be quite honest, other than the ones we had in the recent. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like you kind of know when
you guys. Good. So with you, by the way, I realized because I see how we book this, and then I realized some people have different booking systems. So if I know myself, I'm not like most guests. I don't think I actually have 2 days a week dedicated to this. So it's not like you can see. I know I'm meant to record on those days. I'm either recording with you or alone or something. I'm doing something.
Right.
So I can give you my link to book on my schedule too, which helps me lock in more time than not versus some people who want me to connect with them outside of the platform. And I'm like, oh man, that's gonna. You gotta just respect the system. No. Do this in the system.
No,
because
I try to do everything through Podmatch.
You have to. That's why I'm number 2, right? I think I'm number 2 today on the top 10, whatever. Yeah. That matters. By the way, I try to be number 1, number 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah, We're trying. It's just that it's a struggle. People like, I reached out to you to be a guest on my show. Just confirm this. They'd be like, oh, here's my email. I'm like, please just confirm this for me so I can, rank.
We're working our way
Yeah.
up.
Like,
man. So like when I sit down, I have. So I only use one tag. I don't use all 10 tags. I use one tag or 3 or 4 very, very similar tags. I don't want everything from, for example, AAP, BIPOC, LGBTQ, podcasting and marketing. I don't want that energy at the same time. If I'm reaching out to a certain community, I've got a letter written for that community. And what I do is I use Alex's system. I stick with one word and I exhaust the system from that word until I hit the end and it tells me there are no more matches. And then I know I've reached everyone who uses that word. And then I'll add a couple of other variations of it, keeping that old world in so I can stay in that nook. Like I'm trying to figure out where if I want to have a very specific conversation so I can talk about being marginalized versus marketing or discovery. And then this way, even as I'm scheduling my time, I have blocks where I'm kind of talking about the same thing, even though the dialogue progresses, throughout the year, but I'm still in the same mindset. For me, that helps me produce more because I'm not like bouncing around from like, are you a small business podcast or are we talking about personal brand? Do you care about my MTV background or is this too celebrity for you? Like I get in that space. So for me, I had to be mindful when I'm talking about marketing, talking about marketing. When I'm looking to hang out and talk about pop culture, it's completely different vibe.
Right.
And when I sit down, I meet people. I don't try to have a conversation with them or do anything about log. I only meet people and then I leave. And then I come back when I have 40 options in my messages that are ready to go. And then I look at my empty schedule and I say, now I can start I've got 40 opportunities. I need 10 slots in 2 weeks. How am I going to fit this in? And I start looking at it as numbers. And also the thing that I look at most valuably when I'm looking to pitch people, when I'm looking to pitch myself, the thing I look at most valuable is that they have some type of reviews, that there's been like cooperation with the system. That's what I mean with reviews. And then the time of day. That's the number. Otherwise I don't care about follower count or any, and then your picture and your description. I'm judging you and casting you and I'm deciding if you're worthy of my time, really, if you really want to be blunt, my approach to it, which is a horrible mindset to say, but like, this is my time. And I want to show up fully trusting you and have zero.
No.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I wouldn't expect nothing less.
Yeah, I like that. And it helps me be steadfast in growth. And it helps me believe that where I'm at is where I'm meant to be. And I don't have to be anywhere else. Except now, so. This is awesome, though, dude. Thank you so much for this like energy and conversation. And like, do you do Podfest? Do you guys go to conventions? Are you active in the podcast?
We tried. They had one in Jersey. It got canceled like twice, but
we'll be doing that.
We're trying to. We are doing that this year. We're just trying to. We're trying to do a bunch of stuff. Like we were supposed to fly out to Sacramento, but
cool.
I guess
that's a whole other thing.
Flaked on that.
Yeah, that's fine. But we will be at. Let's do this. Let's hopefully you're cool with it. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah,
100%. Like I said, I had fun connecting with you all together. And if you need anything from us or me, or I'm more available than these guys. But if you need anything from us, let us know. Let us know. We love meeting good people.
I'll look to see what that means. By the way,
that's fine.
If you're going to Podfest, I don't get a discount. I don't get like a paid or anything, but this link is my 10% off link for people who are coming. If you want that. And then my only question is the H, the O, and the T in the Opinionated podcast are red. Is it meant to be hot?
Yes. When I was putting it together, I said, you know what, this will be a nice little.
I saw that. I'm letting you know I see that. All right.
Yes, thank you. You're the first person who pointed that out, other than my co-host here.
That's hysterical. Dude, now you're gonna be like, now we have to keep it. The guy said he saw it. The guy saw it.
I thought it was a nice little.
I see it. I'm like, it has to mean something. I'm like figuring it out.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna go mark our thing successful on Podmatch. By the way, I like sharing this information. Let's see what I am. I think I'm like number 2 on the guest list, like whatever
Podmatch.
ranking, but it says I'm number 7 ranking globally. Like your current global rank is number 7. When I was number 1 on guest just yesterday, my global rank was 5. So I think global 1, 2, 3, 4 are probably the hosts. It's probably the Cash Master, Therapy Bites, Famous Interviews, and 360 Podcast for Women. I think they're ranked 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't know what your global rank is or how, and then also make sure you finish the education checklist on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
It's an annoying thing, but if you didn't
Yes,
finish,
yes.
Okay, cool.
Got you.
It's a big trigger.
Now we did finish that. We did.
Did we?
I told this guy to finish it. Yes, we had to because I started it and I said, "Hey, bro, finish the videos for me, man. Like we're a team." I get him.
Oh.
We did.
Yeah,
bro.
we'll definitely get
sure
on
we
that.
did. It should be all checked up.
Awesome. Cool.
We appreciate you, Vinnie.
All right. Thanks much. I'll see you soon. Thanks for this.
All right. You have a good one.
We'll
be in touch.
Thank
all
you.
righty.
You too.